Alrighty, good morning. Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon. Whether you're new or coming back, we want to welcome you back to Mobile App Academy, where we show you how to build and configure mobile apps in the Now platform. My name, as always, is Charlie Steiner, product marketer here at ServiceNow. And today we'll actually be showing up something quite new for the first time in user experience analytics. And this is our first time being on a Paris instance. So as always, we have our product experts on hand presenting today and in the chat. So any questions you have, we'll be monitoring throughout and trying to get to them as soon as possible. If you're joining us for the first time here, welcome. First of all, thank you for joining us. This is a live building series that focuses on managing and building out mobile apps in real time. We have product experts presenting and in the chat to provide guidance, best practices, and answer any of your questions. We host these sessions every 2 weeks here on Zoom at 10 a.m. Pacific. And for those who are catching our recordings, those are posted Thursday mornings, Pacific time that is, on YouTube. And the link will be in the chat shortly to our playlist for those. And just quickly before we get started, we'd love to hear your feedback on this session and any of our sessions moving forward, whether it's feedback about the session, topics you may want to learn more on, or topic ideas that you'd love to see us present on. I'd love to hear from you. On our mobile community is a great place, or even here in the chat, we take everything down, and I love your perspective. So thank you as always. With all that admin out of the way, as always, I'd love to introduce David Ha, Senior Product Manager at ServiceNow on the mobile team to get things started. David.
Thanks for the intro, Charlie. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our Mobile App Academy kickoff for 2021. My name is David Ha, and I'm an outbound product manager here at ServiceNow. I also have Fu Ho here with me, who's a solution architect, as well as Dan Vitale, who's on our outbound team representing mobile here at ServiceNow as well. And we want to give a warm welcome to everyone joining us live here today. You know, it's really great to be back, and we're excited to kick off another year loaded with lots of new content and topics that's upcoming. For today's topic, we'll be covering user experience analytics. It's an out-of-the-box dashboard that provides KPIs of your users' usage and adoption of your ServiceNow mobile clients. So this is a great feature that's been available since our Orlando release, but we're still seeing there's quite a few customers out there that have yet to start using it. So this is actually a really great opportunity for us to showcase and walk you through some of the powerful analytics that you get with it in today's session. We'll also use today's session to walk you through how to activate key things to note, like end user tracking and user privacy, and how end users can manually disable tracking on their devices. And then instead of just talking about some of the key features, we'll actually dive into the dashboard, and I'll give you a walkthrough of some of the major capabilities that you get with your out-of-the-box things. And I'll even walk you through how events are triggered in real time as we open up our app and have data roll through into our dashboard. Okay. And then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A at the end. I'll point you to some resources that you can take a deeper look into and get started using user experience analytics. And then for next week's topic, we'll have a guest speaker to give us a deep dive on mobile publishing, how you can publish custom branded ServiceNow mobile apps and tailor them to use your unique company identity. And this is a feature that was also released since Orlando, but we'll use this time to walk you through some of the the end-to-end process and answer some of your most common questions we see around this topic. Okay, and then one other thing that I want to mention before we get started, let me share a new screen here. Okay, so we created this recap article on all of our Mobile App Academy topics in 2020. So this is actually a really great place to access them in the featured content portion here on our community site. If you are new to our series, this is a great list of videos to check out. If you're looking to learn more about how to get started with your implementations around ServiceNow agents or Now Mobile, this is a great place. You can also see how you can extend your out-of-the-box apps, such as Safe Workplace or HR Service Delivery, or if you're just looking to learn about skill building concepts and mobile fundamentals, such as push notifications, or maybe even carrier parameters, this is definitely your one-stop shop to see all those past sessions. But more importantly, if you've attended any of our sessions in the past and you're looking to learn about new topics, this is actually a chance to share feedback with us. We created a survey at the bottom here. You click on Take a Survey. It'll launch you to this SurveyMonkey survey, and you can share feedback directly with us. Share with us what's been good with and what we can improve on, and we'll do our best to pull these sessions together for you for the remainder of this year. Okay. So now that I got all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with our presentation. Okay. So let me give you a quick little overview on what user experience analytics is. And then we'll point out a few things that you should understand, such as user privacy. But to get started, what is user experience analytics? If you're not familiar, it's our advanced mobile analytics dashboard that tracks key KPIs of your ServiceNow mobile apps. It will give you better insight onto your mobile adoption, engagement, usage, performance, and so much more. But the idea here is we equip you with all the metrics that you would need out of the box so that you can better understand how well your mobile apps are doing. You'll see here that as I go through some of the dashboard capabilities, you'll get really deep insight on exactly how your users are using your apps today. Whether they're using it the way that you intended for it to be built, or if they're dropping off. That will give you some pointers on where you can focus on in improving your mobile workflows. It's also deeply integrated with the mobile platform and tracks across all the clients, whether you're using our public store apps from the iOS or Android store, or if you have a branded app that you created through our mobile publishing service, you'll still be able to track analytics on your branded mobile apps as well. So how does it work? The user experience analytics dashboard is currently available out of the box. As long as you're on an Orlando build or beyond, it should be automatically enabled upon your instance upgrade. But I'll show you some properties to check if it isn't activated out of the box in just a few minutes. But to use this dashboard, you should know that the mobile analytics viewer role is required, or any user with admin privileges. They'll also be able to access it as well. End user data collection, or in other words, user privacy. This is super important. Something to call out is, all users in the United States, everyone who logs in and installs the app, they'll automatically be opted in for tracking. But if they are in the EU, users must explicitly consent within that for user experience analytics tracking to work. And if they live anywhere else in the world, a tracking notice is presented for the first time as soon as they launch the app. And again, the user must consent for it to work. But the super important thing here to note is if at any time that a user doesn't want to share their data or consent to be tracked, they can actually opt out inside of the mobile client. And it's found on the settings tab, if you look at the screenshot here. And I'll show you that on the live app as well. But if you click into the more tab and into settings, there's a huge little tab called analytics, and then you can either enable or disable. And that will kind of set the tracking to be on or off. Okay. And so the reason why I bring this up is this might actually affect your data from an admin user perspective. So, you may have expected to roll out to, let's say, 1,000 users who have adopted the mobile app. They've downloaded it from the ServiceNow store. The public app store from Apple or Android. And maybe you're using like an MDM. And so you have an analytics dashboard in-house. Or maybe you're using Apple's analytics. And it tells you that, 1,000 people have downloaded that. However, using the ServiceNow user experience dashboard, you might only see 800 active users. And you might be questioning, why am I only seeing 800 active when I know that 1,000 downloaded the app? And there's a couple common scenarios that could cause this. And the first is the most obvious, in which the end user, although they did install the client from the public app stores, they never actually logged in and opened up the app. So that might be the first reason why you might see a discrepancy. The second discrepancy is if the end user opts out of end user tracking, this will prevent you from being able to track the user's data. And those users will also not show up as active users. A user can only be active if they have a session within the app. And user experience analytics, it only triggers and fires off a session when someone opens the app. And whether it be the public app store client or an MAM embedded client for Intune BlackBerry, or maybe even a branded client generated from mobile publishing service, they do need to consent for them to show up on the user experience dashboard. Okay. So those are the common questions that we get all the time around user experience analytics. So I thought I'd call that out. But with now all of that out of the way, let's actually jump into our instance and access our dashboard. So let me share my other screen here. 1 second. Okay. Okay, that's better. Okay, so now you should be able to see my screen. Okay. In order to get started, I'm going to first show you the setup needed to make sure you have access to your user experience analytics dashboard. So again, the first thing to note, to use your dashboard, you're going to need to be on an Orlando instance or higher. I'm going to log into my parents instance. And then, once you have your instance upgraded, you won't actually have to install any plugins because those plugins will automatically be installed for you. But once it's been upgraded to Orlando or higher, what you'll want to look for is to make sure your dash properties are set to active. So on our left-hand nav, let's actually look up user experience analytics. Okay. You're going to see a couple tabs here for settings as well as properties. Let's go ahead and open up our properties tab first. So here, note that user experience is automatically set to yes and enabled upon upgrade. So that's the first thing you'll want to check to make sure you have your dashboard. The second tab you'll want to check is settings. And here you can see that tracking is enabled across my 3 public app clients for ServiceNow Mobile, for mobile agent, ServiceNow agent, as well as mobile onboarding. But if you had any other clients on this instance, let's say, for example, branded a client, let's say you went through our mobile publishing service and you created a branded client for ServiceNow agent, you would see a 4th record here, and it would also be set to true. I don't know if it's set to true by default, but this is definitely something that you would check to make sure your dashboard's working. Okay. And if for whatever reason that there's still no data populating, and if you check both your settings and properties, you'll then need to open up a ticket with support. We've heard that there were some customers struggling to open up the dashboard with data on earlier versions. And it may have been an issue with an outdated API authentication key, but that's something that's known and it's easily fixed by support. So if you still can't see any data on your dashboard, definitely open up a ticket and work with support. Okay. So now we'll jump into our dashboard. And the first thing I want to show is at the top left here, you can see that I have all the clients that I have access to on my instance. For mobile agent, for mobile onboarding, as well as now mobile. And if I've also created branded mobile apps through the mobile publishing service, I would also see those clients in this list as well. But for today, we're going to focus on the mobile agent app. That's what we'll walk through. Also notice that you can switch between iOS data and Android data, or see across all platforms. But we'll stick to iOS for today because I am logged in with my iPhone. But there may be very specific issues that you might find on iPhones versus Androids, and so this will really help you deep dive and help narrow where the true root, or if you're trying to discover if there's issues, you can definitely dive in between those two. You also have versions. These are currently the 2 versions that all of my 3 total active users are on. But if they were on any other version, you would see it here. And then also at the very top right, you can of course change the date range. Depending on how frequent you expect your users to be engaged with their mobile clients, this could really help you decide how you want to dice up your data. But for today, we'll just look at the last 30 days so that we can get a monthly view. Okay. And then now we have this overview dashboard. At the very top, you can see some of our top level metrics in our review section. Currently have 3 total active users for this month in iOS, specifically for iOS users. And each user, I have a total of 26 sessions, and each user has an average of 8.7 sessions per user. And their average session duration is about 2 minutes. So some best practices around these numbers. Of course, we're always going to want total numbers of sessions of users to be as high as possible. And really, depending on what you're trying to get your end users to achieve, your sessions per user may vary. For example, if they are a field service agent and they're constantly using the agent app to record and complete tasks, then they may be opening up the ServiceNow agent client every day and maybe even multiple times a day, right? That's why you might see a lot of average sessions per users. On the other hand, if you're rolling out the Now Mobile client, the employee persona, this you might find that the sessions per user is much lower because they only open up the mobile app when they need it, whether it be a password reset or requesting a quick service catalog item. It could be once a week or maybe even once a month. But just some things to put out in perspective when you're looking at some of these numbers. Another call out I want to mention here is average session duration, right? So for our ServiceNow mobile apps, something that we always highlight is enabling mobile micro moments. And if you can think of these mobile micro moments, how we kind of describe it is we're trying to enable mobile use cases that makes someone's life much easier on their mobile app. What are the set of fields, actions, and screens that they might need to get work done quickly on their phone? If we're cramming too much information and they're spending way too many minutes inside of the mobile apps, they might consider doing that task on their desktop or laptop instead. And so your adoption numbers might drop over time. And so we always encourage for you to enable mobile micro moments, finding those specific workflows that your employees and agents might need most specifically on their phone, and to optimize for those workflows. You'll find that with better mobile UX and improved workflows, you'll find that the average session time per user typically happens within a minute or less. Again, if they're spending 5-10 minutes in their mobile app just to access something that they need, at that point, they might as well just use their desktop, right? And again, it widely depends on the use case and what you're trying to enable for mobile. So it's super important to set benchmarks for yourself, and as well as setting expectations on how long you think your end user should spend with their apps. And then compare it to the metrics of what you'll actually find in your dashboard. Okay. So those were the calls I want to mention here. Also note that you can also see a trending. I don't have a lot of data on this instance. This is my test instance. That's why you're only seeing 3 total users. But I would expect on a customer instance, you'll see hundreds of users, maybe even thousands, and you'll get a much better analysis with more data, right? But just know that here you can see a trend graph of your total sessions as well as total users. You can break it down by daily, weekly, monthly, and then this little download button, this will actually allow you to download the raw numbers onto a spreadsheet. So you can dig further into it if you need. Okay. And then at the bottom here, you also see some top level numbers around retention, funnels, as well as top events. Retention, it tells you, how many of your end users are coming back and reopening their apps every day, week, or month. Funnel completions tells you how many end users are actually completing their workflows inside of their mobile app. So if you had like some sort of intended start screen to end screen, are they actually going through the direction, the way that you actually intended for it to be built? And so funnel completion will actually tell you if they're completing it the way that you want. And then for top events, these are the top screens and functions that your end users are actually tapping inside of the app. You can see that opening a tab is one of the top ones, and you can see various other functions as well. So these are your top level metrics that will give you an overview of what's happening inside your mobile apps. But if we drill down further on our left-hand nav, let's look at some of the other metrics that user experience analytics provides us, starting with sessions. And you can kind of think of sessions as true building blocks of the user experience analytics dashboard, in which it gives us the ability to track and log every session that occurs within the app. So let's go ahead and open up all sessions. And here you can see a list of all the sessions that are taking place inside of our ServiceNow agent app client for iOS users across all versions within the last 30 days. Again, I can change any of these filters based on the parameters that I want to set for myself. But let's go ahead and click into one of these sessions, for example. You can see that I had a session from a user that's currently located in San Francisco. Their first session time, as well as time within the app, 52 seconds. If I want a better view on this, I can click on session details, right? And you get a bit more information as well as their timeline. I don't think this is a good timeline. Let's open up one earlier. And here you can see, the timeline of all the things that they did in this one session, right? So they first started with opening up the mobile agent app, right? And then as you scroll down this, they're opening up the dashboard tab. They're tapping somewhere, they're swiping up. They're selecting things on the first list, swiping up and down, tapping on things. They also open up the My Work tab. Again, they open up the dashboard. So as you kind of go through timelines, it really gives you an idea of how end users are going through their journey. Maybe they're open up the same tab over and over, as you can see here. That might make you question, is there something that they're looking for but they don't have? This is really a great place to kind of research your end users' experiences. And what's useful here is, as we start analyzing how your end users are going through the workflows, you might figure out that they're spending too much time in this one session. Maybe they're clicking on things that they didn't intend to, or maybe they're not finding the things that they need to do. But this timeline really gives you an idea of how they're going through that workflow from a user-to-user basis. Some pretty powerful stuff. And again, all this insight is available here immediately out of the box. So that's sessions by individual users. Again, you can kind of download a CSV file for all this information as well, and view some other metrics here. But seeing data on an individual user basis isn't maybe so helpful. Maybe I want to see it out on an aggregate level. So if I wanted to look across aggregate number of users, I can actually tap into UI analysis. And then let's go ahead and open up insights. So here we can see some quick high-level numbers for our aggregate data for quit rates, as well as user interactions, screen popularity, and user engagement. On our quit rate, if we hover over the question mark here, this will actually show us how this is defined and what it might mean if you don't exactly know how it's currently calculating the quit rate. But here it's showing us, which screens end users are landing on before they leave app. And it seems that, dashboard is our highest quit screen rate, meaning this is probably the tab that they're going to be on before they leave app. And I don't have a lot of context to see what's happening here, but this does give me a general idea on some of those top level metrics. You also have user interactions. If I hover over this will tell me what screens are being most engaged with. I expect the dashboard to be top because this is the first tab that I put on. But for example, if I saw my instance was a top screen, this might indicate to me that maybe this is more important than my dashboard. I should probably set my instance tab closer to the front, or maybe even become my first tab. So that's kind of how I would think about this. Screen popularity, you can see the most viewed screens, dashboard settings, as well as the least viewed screens, my instance. So maybe this is a screen that end users might not need. Is there any reason to enable this inside of the mobile app if it's not something that you're using? Or maybe this is a workflow that's only enabled for a few users or a few groups of users. Maybe that's the reason why they're the least viewed screens, since this is an aggregate across all your end users. Okay. And then user engagement, screens with the longest duration times. So I can kind of interpret this in a few ways. If we expect them to be spending a lot of time on the dashboard, maybe 30 minutes does make sense. It's your manager persona looking into their data and trying to figure out things that they need to do and take action upon. For example, on my Asian app, right, I have at the very top, I have highlighted work that's unassigned as well as critically unassigned. And then you have dashboards underneath here. Maybe they're kind of just looking at analytics from a high level to see, if I need to assign this to someone, who do I need to assign this critical assigned to? Maybe it's the person that has the least amount of work, to Teddy Taylor. But I can also interpret this in another way where the manager shouldn't be spending 3 minutes just to assign this one task. If this is the workflow that I want them to do, get the manager in, get them to get these critical assigned to 0. Why are they spending up to 3 minutes when it hopefully could be done in maybe 30 seconds or less? So that's a few ways to interpret this kind of data. And screens with the shortest average visit, 6 seconds. The reason for that maybe is because they're opening it up and then they have no use for it, or they're actually getting their work done in that fast of a time. But in 6 seconds, I don't expect anyone to actually be doing anything and that fast. So it's possible that they open up the My Work tab and they're not actually doing anything. Okay. So that's the UI insights. Another thing that I might want to call out is let's actually open up users as well. And this is kind of a individual data again, sessions by individual users that can be looked. You can kind of look at this as individual users across different parameters, such as individual users for sessions, returning users, loyal users, and so forth. But let's actually open up loyal users, for example. And if you actually hover over any one of these question marks, these pop up, they'll tell you exactly what it is. So this is view users that's opened up the app more than 5 times across all devices. And it's within your time period, right? So in the last 30 days, if they've opened this up in the past 5 times in the last 30 days. And you're gonna see that I have 2 users here. So I know that my total active is 3. It seems only 2 of them are opening up more than 5 times. So now that I've kind of clicked into this, you got the idea of these are your most loyal users to the apps. You'll see their total session times, time on the app, general locations. Something that I do want to point out is this hashed user ID. Generally, you shouldn't be able to figure out exactly who this user is due to data privacy. We've hashed the user ID, so you won't actually be able to backtrack individual users. So this ensures that the end user is getting their user privacy that they consented to, and that they won't be able to, you won't be able to discover who that specific individual user is. But how this kind of data can kind of generally guide you to find issues that are coming up. Maybe if you see recurring issues in the Cupertino or San Francisco area, maybe there's 10 of these users and they're all having similar issues. This will kind of give you an idea of what is their latest, what you can kind of backtrack and figure out what are the patterns that you'll be able to kind of come up with. Are they using this all using iPhones? Are they all using Androids? Maybe that's kind of the reason, and you'll be able to kind of go backwards and figure out what the root issue is. So that's kind of how I would interpret the data. Another thing that I want to show is, let's see, we showed UI analysis. Let's also show, how about we show user flows across the entire client. So let's actually open up screens for UI analysis. Okay. So these are all the different screens, or no, let's actually show. Yeah, so this is your aggregate view on how end users are navigating across your different applet launchers. We're currently on the dashboard applet launcher. There's a total of 15 sessions on it with an average duration of 3 minutes and has 70% of app interactions. If I don't quite know what this means, I'll hover over it. And it shows the relative interaction rate for this screen measured by the number of gestures. So if they open up this applet launcher, this is 70% of those users are actually tapping on things. But it kind of gives you an idea of how they access the dashboard in this next screen that they go to. So if you look here, if I start from my dashboard, how do most people navigate to this screen? It seems like most people are opening up the app and immediately it takes them to the dashboard. And that makes sense, right? Because the dashboard is the very first tab on my mobile client. And so I would expect that majority are, this is how they access the dashboard. But there's also other people, maybe they have different personas. Maybe they don't quite have this is hidden to that specific persona or role. And so they might actually access it from another tab, from my work or something else. But something useful is, if you intended for them to start with a dashboard and maybe go to a different tab or a different applet, you can kind of use this as a general idea of where they're going to. I can see here that most people start with the dashboard tab and then they quit the app. If I intended for them to use it that way, then this is good. But if I was hoping that they start from the dashboard and then go into my work, it seems only a third of those users are going in that direction. Okay, so that's pretty useful there. Another thing that I want to show is user flows for UI analysis. So there's a lot of things going on here, but if you're looking for something a bit more visual, these are kind of all the different screens are available in my ServiceNow agent client. You can kind of see that the majority are navigating from the open app as the starting point. And if I hover over dashboard, this is kind of like the central point in which it's a central part of our workflow. You have many destination points that's going to and from. But this is kind of a great visualization to help you better understand your user journey. If I hover over a quit app, it seems that majority are quitting from the dashboard. So just a different way to visualize your data, right? If this isn't as intuitive for you, we also have navigation paths. And this is a sunburst diagram that kind of breaks down where majority users are navigating to and from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. It seems that most people will quit the app by step 4. There's no one actually doing more than 4 things within this app. If there were, it would continue to expand. But just to explain the sunburst diagram, you start off with opening up the app, and it seems that 70% are immediately going to the dashboard. That makes sense. A few other users are going to settings, a few are going to my team. So that's the very first step. Majority are going to dashboard. From the second step, this might be alarming to me, but it seems that more than half are quitting the app as soon as they open up the dashboard. Only a few other users are going to my work. And then from my work, they're also going to dashboard notifications or quitting the app. So that's kind of how you interpret this sunburst diagram. And to me, this is alarming, just because majority after by step number 2, majority are already quitting the app. So maybe whatever workflow that I'm trying to take them through, it's not quite useful, and so they're only exploring. They open it up and they quit it, or maybe they have everything that they need, and they only need to stay within the dashboard app. A couple of ways to interpret it, I guess. So let me go ahead and stop here and ask if there's any questions so far. No, that's kind of a lot. Fu, is there any questions that we want to highlight from the chat?
No questions on chat yet.
Okay. Then let me go ahead and move on. So this is kind of aggregate level views that you can drill down into. But we also provide comprehensive analytics around user insight and analytics. If I click into technical analysis on analytics here, I can see all the different OS versions, devices, resolutions, and connectivity across all my iOS users. So this can keep me mindful of how our app store upgrades can affect majority of my users and their current environments. It can help you find patterns and help you troubleshoot groups of users with similar devices. We can also look at geographical data. And this will give me a map and distribution of all my active users. Since I only have 3 active users on this instance, I'm seeing that all of them are in the United States. But as I dive into the United States, it'll also break it down by different states. I think this is super helpful for organizations that are deploying, across countries. If you're expecting some sort of EU rollout, you'll see exactly how many end users are being active and actually adopting your mobile apps. And you can even download a CSV file to kind of break it down even further if you like. Another important tab is that you might want to check out is retention, user retention. So, here we don't really just want our end users to download the app, open it once, and then never use it again. We want them to return and continue using it. And here you can actually analyze how frequently they're using it over time. You have session frequencies. It seems that a majority of them are using it up to 6 times per week. And then you have average time between sessions. This is a bit skewed since I only have 3 users, but it seems that majority have about a day before they open up for the second time. And about 2 days before the open the third. We're seeing 1 second, 11 minutes, and 57 just because of our low number of users. But this will generally give you an idea how long until they open up for their next session. And then you have this retention cohort analysis at the bottom here. And this is giving you an idea of how your user retention is across the weeks. So here I can see that for the week of February 22nd, there were 3 new active users. And within 7 days, or 6 days and less, 7 days and less, 2 of the 3 have opened it up, opened up the app. And by the first week or 7 days, no one is actually opening up the app again. So this is kind of giving you an idea of adoption across timelines. Of course, you want this retention percentage to increase or slowly decrease over time. You want the numbers as high as possible. But it seems like after 1 week, everyone's already not using the app again. And that is a red flag for me because it means that I've enabled a workflow that's not useful for my end users. So this is a very powerful tool to give you an idea of how your new users are retending over time. Okay. And then Dan, since we have you on the line, is there anything that you want to point out here? If not, we can kind of move on.
I think you covered that well, David.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so this is basically a general overview of all the out-of-the-box experiences that you get with user experience analytics. And now the next thing I want to do is give you a real-time look on how some of these events are triggered upon logging into the app. So I have my ServiceNow agent client up here, and I'm going to walk you through the workflow. And then we'll check the dashboard to see how this data is actually pulled in. So I have my ServiceNow agent app on my phone. And as I tap through some of the things on this app, pay close attention to some of the applets that I open up, as well as the functions that I execute. Because then we'll jump back into the dashboard and I'll show you exactly how those were triggered, right? So to explain what I'm about to do, let's say that I am an ITSM field service agent manager, and I'm just about to start my day. And immediately I'm seeing that there's one critically unassigned task that I need to distribute to my team. The goal here is to get this logged in user to click on this critically unassigned applet and to execute an action that assigns this task to someone. So if I tap this applet, I want them to be able to maybe hit the top menu, or actually no, dig into the form, hit the top menu, and then edit, and then change the assign to someone on that team. But notice how I had when I clicked edit, immediately I was immediately scrolling up and down. You'll actually get that information. Those are also events. Every time I scroll up, scroll down, before I actually click the submit button. So that's some useful information to help you understand your flows and how end users are interacting with it. And sometimes maybe, I have this hidden, or I have this swipe button that also allows me to edit. I can also use my dashboard to understand if our end users are actually clicking edit on the swipe. We've heard from customers that this isn't a very discoverable action location. And so they'll try not to use swipe when they can. They'll actually put it in the top menu instead. Okay, so let's go and complete that workflow real fast. We'll open up this applet. We will jump into the form. We'll click edit. We're going to assign this to Teddy Taylor or Alyssa Chinoy, and then we'll submit. Oh, not a member of assignment group. We'll change it we'll change the location to San Francisco. San Francisco. the assignment group to NorCal. Location. Assignment group. Oh, we do not. There we go. So that worked. So now all of the critically assigned is back to 0. And as soon as my user exits the app or sends it to the background, the session should be triggered. That counts as an active session. So now I can pull up my dashboard, right? And if I click into all sessions, this should be the most recent session. It might take a couple minutes for that data to be pulled in. But it looks like I already see a session 3 minutes ago. There might be another one, but we can also use this one just for time's sake. But let me make sure this is the correct session. Open up dashboard, swipe up, swipe down. Okay, let's actually restart the session if this is not the one that I want. Okay, well, we'll start the session from scratch again. Okay, so let's actually go into unassigned work order task, and we'll drop this number from 48 to 47. So I want them to open up one of these tasks, and we'll click into the form and reassign this to someone on my team. So we'll change the location to San Francisco. Here we go. Assignment group to none. And then we'll assign this to Alyssa Chinoy. Then we'll submit. And then we'll refresh the app and then close out that session. So now I expect that there should be a session that rolls into the dashboard as soon as I quit the app. So let's go ahead and refresh this real fast. And then Dan, just to confirm, since I have you, oh, there's the session. But each time I close the app, it creates a new session, right? So anytime it goes back to the background, that should trigger a new session.
That's correct. A session is defined by open and close.
Perfect. Okay. So here I know that this is a session coming from me. It says it's a minute, came a minute ago. It seems that I opened up 3 screens and I executed 14 actions. By actions, it's not, even a tap counts as an action. So it's not ServiceNow functions or things like that. So as I kind of go through this timeline, I'll click on session details. You can kind of see the things that this user is doing, right? They started from the dashboard. We opened up the tab. I did a swipe. There was an action that was tapped. But what I want to know is, if they executed the action from the top menu or the swipe. And let's see, where do we execute our action? Oh, action sheet taps. So I guess this doesn't give me an idea of where that action was tapped. Selected first item from second list. So to explain this first item from second list, so these are 2 list screens, and it seems that it's telling me that this first item, first list was tapped into. And the next thing that happened was that there was an action that was tapped that was selected as 6th item from the first list. Don't exactly know what that means, but this could, as we kind of get more feedback from customers using user experience analytics, this is kind of the feedback that we want. So if there's any enhancements or questions, feel free to post on mobile community, and we can definitely get the team to help answer some of those questions and clear any confusion. And if you have any enhancements in general, You can also use the idea portal on mobile community as well. That will kind of send those enhancements directly to the product team's backlog so they can have further discussions on it. But this is kind of just the individual user. I can also kind of aggregate the data to figure out if they're doing what I want by using funnel reporting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a funnel that I intended for them to start from the dashboard, open up one of these lists, and then complete the action. But I want to see how many of these people are actually completing the action by swipe. So let's go ahead and create a new funnel to test that. So I currently have 3 active users on this dashboard, and I think I'm the only logged in user that actually uses swipe. So I should see 1 user swiping. So let's create a new funnel. We'll call this, how about complete sign swipe. And then we'll include all the sessions within the last 30 days. And we'll start with a screen view. So screens on user experience analytics, it doesn't mean just applet screens. It can also be defined as an applet launcher. So this is showing me all of my applet launchers as a screen view. And we want to start from the dashboard applet launcher. So we'll go ahead and start that as step number 1. The second step is we want them to if you're familiar with building mobile apps on the ServiceNow platform using Studio, you would know that these lists, to jump into the list on this native reporting, they're using a list item action. That's kind of like the location. So I'm going to find this action on this list. So we're going to look for a screen action from the dashboard. And the action type is going to be a list item selection, because that's currently how it's associated. Now it's asking me if it's going to be the first list or the second list. I want to test the second list because that's where our swipes were. We'll click add. And that's all I want. So we'll go click finish. And just as I expected, since I'm the only logged in user that did a swipe, I'm seeing 1 user that opened up the dashboard. And then they swiped. Although I do have a question for Dan. I would actually expect 3 users to have access to the dashboard. Wouldn't you say so? If I have 3 active users?
When you set up the funnel, did you do it based on data from today only or from a month back?
From a month back.
It depends when the session's held.
I see. Okay. So it might just be a timing thing, but the idea here is as you create your funnel reports, you should see exactly how many users are dropping off as you go down each step. So if this was like a 4 or 5 step workflow that you intended to build, and you see that it started from 100% and it rolled down to only 20%, maybe it's not the most intuitive workflow. So these funnel reportings will actually give you an idea of how effective these workflows you're building for mobile. That's kind of how I would use funnel reporting. But with all that said, hopefully that kind of gave you a quick little overview of user experience analytics and just how powerful it is, and with all the things that you get out of the box. And that kind of wraps up what I wanted to show for today. So let's go ahead and open up to Q&A now. If there's any questions. If there's any questions in the chat.
Yeah, there were. There's one, basically what you talked about earlier in the beginning about the data that's not being shown. And it's because of the app auth key that they have to submit a ticket, and support will get their instance with a new key. And he had a follow-up question. And he says that, does that mean that all or multiple items that belong to the UXA plugin might not be visible at the moment? Or could that have another cause? I think I need to answer that question. I think it's, are you talking about like all the items? Were you able to see it before and then now you're not able to see it now, or is it partial, or is it are you not seeing anything right now? So
And then we could also unmute Joe Chen to help clarify. So let's go ahead and I just allowed you to talk, Joe Chen. So feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hey, we can hear you. How's it going?
Okay, great. So we were recently investigating this plugin, and we were coming to the conclusion that we had everything set up properly, but we wanted to execute the scheduled job to make sure that that it wasn't our fault for the data not being there, but the scheduled job also didn't exist in the instance. So I was wondering if the scheduled job that comes with the plugin is also not visible, or maybe not in the instance because of this error, or this known error, so to say, or if that might have another cause.
So when you open up the dashboard, are you seeing any data roll through at all, or are you just seeing no data completely?
So sometimes the dashboard is completely white, so nothing is even shown, and other times, for example, if I use a private window, then it shows only the dashboard without any data.
Gotcha. If you're not seeing any data, it's definitely something that our internal teams needs to investigate. It might not be something that you're doing that's wrong. I would have someone from the support team to kind of check if
I'll
the
make
plugin
sure
finds it correctly.
we will raise a ticket.
Perfect.
All right, thanks.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions?
there's no questions, additional questions.
Okay. If no other questions, then let me go ahead and wrap up. I do want to show some additional training resources that you can check if you like to, get your hands dirty and get started with user experience analytics. So let me go and share my PowerPoint again. I think you should still see my screen. Is that right too?
Yep.
Okay. So let's wrap up. I want to show you a couple of self-service enablement materials that's currently available as of today. So first we have our product docs. If you look into our product docs specifically for Paris and Quebec, you'll see that a lot of the information that you need around user experience analytics already exists. It's quite thorough. There's a lot on each specific metric. If you're looking for definitions or how to use it, all that information is all documented so that you can kind of get started. The other thing we have is mobile community, of course. Whether it's an open-ended question around user experience analytics, or maybe it's additional metrics that your organization needs that's not available out of the box, we recommend that you start there to start sharing your enhancements through the IDEA portal. And then our user experience analytics team will definitely look forward to getting more feedback from all of you so that they can improve it in future releases. So this is a great place to start sharing feedback. Okay. With all of that said, thank you everyone for joining us in our kickoff for today. It's really great to be back. We're excited for all the new topics that we have in store for this year. And if you have any questions or would like to explore any specific topics, please feel free to share them on mobile community. We'll have another session in 2 weeks, which we'll do a deep dive on mobile publisher. And until then, make sure to keep following the mobile community site for the latest dates and information. Thank you everyone for joining us in today's session, and I hope to see you all at the next Mobile App Academy. Cheers, everyone.